This corridor here is a critical corridor for wildfire treatment. It's base of slope, and if fire starts, it's always generally runs up slope, uphill. The treatment we're doing now is roughly 30 hectares, 100-acre treatment, mostly steep slope treatment, and the assessment that came out for that had rated it at high to extreme wildfire hazard. So by putting in a wildfire guard along the bottom here, by mitigating the slopes, we create what's called a defendable area, where if fire does get into this section, it's suppressible. And we've got a significant roadway that runs, within probably 400 yards of this. And those are extreme high ignition points with people throwing out cigarettes and just high use. For the most part, the areas that get wildfire treated are going to be future green space or park use areas. We're actually reversed of the logging process, where we're retaining all the best trees and the largest trees in most cases, and taking out all the ladder fuels, the younger stuff, and opening the stands up. We take very little value per se out of the forest. We leave the value on the land, and most of the wood that we recover is generally just firewood. The issue for log recovery that we run into is you need all one species and you need enough to make a load. If we were in a profile where we could take merchantable wood out, then obviously we would. But this stuff here, there's not enough of it to justify bringing it out, for commercial purpose. So this will actually all go as firewood. We do our best to try to retain wildlife trees, coarse woody debris, any unique little pockets where there's some benefits to the wildlife. And rather than spacing everything systematically, you do little reserves, and it breaks it up, gives you a way nicer mosaic. The trees that should be here are going to do really good, and the trees that shouldn't be are going to die off. It's a win-win for everybody, the wildlife, the city, the developer, the people that are walking through here every day. We're going to try to make a post-fire scenario here, where we've taken out the ladder fuels, taken out the diseased trees, and this is what Mother Nature would have done if she ran a fire through here, 50 years ago. If you come back here next year, you won't even know we were here, and this place will be healthy, and the wildlife will be having a good time in there, and it's fireproof. If you ever did have a wildfire and it wiped out a phase of your development, you could never bring it back. If you have spring burns and late fall burns, they're not as intense, and then the forest can recover quite well from those, and they're actually beneficial. But when you get these late season fires at the wrong time of year, they burn everything. They kill all the seed, they kill the top LFHs, they take all the organics off, and so there's areas that'll never see trees again. You're looking at places like Australia and even down in California where, these areas are just getting literally wiped out. The Okanagan, we've had issues, but we haven't had anything catastrophic since 2003, and since then we've learned a lot, and this is what prevents it. People just need to get educated. There's no pretty way to do wildfire mitigation. Having said that, it's still a lot better looking than a forest fire at the end of the day. This year has been a tough year. The pit that I'm standing in, this is the one day in close to 3.5 months that we actually had venting index and were able to burn. So burning, as good a tool as it is, it's extremely difficult to get the right conditions to burn. Whether we do the burns or the grinding is the two options that we generally weigh. When we're up on these steep hillsides where we don't have mechanical access and we're on the 50–60% slopes, extraction of the slash isn't a choice. We have to burn in those locations because we can't take the material off the hill. It's likely there's always going to be smoke coming from the steep hills because there's hand piles that have to be disposed of, and that's the only tool that we've got right now. Where we can get chippers, it's not an issue, but there's always real estate that we can't get at, and there's always going to be some level of fire required in these wildfire treatments.